Welcome to Literally My Way. My name is G, and today I will be sharing two books with you, and the name of those books is Hidden Figures. I will be sharing the Young Readers Edition, written by Margot Lee Shetterly, and then also the children's version, Hidden Figures, the true story of 4 black women and the space race. And it is also written by Margot Lee Shetterly and illustrated by Laura Freeman. And I chose this room in this setting. It's my daughter's room, but you'll notice above her bed there are 2 posters. And those are 2 posters of the characters featured in the movie Hidden Figures. The posters were gifted to her from her godmother. And I find them to be very inspirational. And since my daughter has them hung above her bed, I'm guessing that she does too. In the movie, as well as in the posters, you'll see 3 of the women, but you heard me say a minute ago that there were 4. And of course there were many, many others. But the 4 main characters, like I said, only 3 are featured above, are Dorothy Vaughan, Katherine Johnson, who we just lost recently, and then you also have 2 others, and that's Mary Jackson, and then the one that was not in the movie is the one that came to NASA a little later, and that's Christine Darden. So again, Hidden Figures, either in the young, and there are other variations as well, the Young Readers Edition or the children's. And I wanted to read the children's one to you, and so I hope you enjoy Hidden Figures, the true story of 4 black women and the space race. Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson, Katherine Johnson, and Christine Darden were good at math. Really, really good. In 1943, the United States was at war, World War II. Dorothy Vaughan wanted to serve her country by working for the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, the government agency that designed airplanes. Having the best airplanes would help America win the war. Making airplanes fly faster and higher and safer meant doing lots of tests at the agency's Langley Laboratory in Hampton, Virginia. Tests meant members meant math, and math meant computers. Today we think of computers as machines, but in the 1940s, computers were actual people like Dorothy, Mary, Katherine, and Christine. Their job was to do math. And my daughter, she's good at math. She loves math. Math was not my best friend, let's just say. Because Dorothy was black and a woman, some people thought it would be impossible for her to get a job as a computer. She lived in Virginia, a southern state, where laws segregated or kept apart black people and white people. They could not eat in the same restaurants. They could not drink from the same water fountains. They could not use the same restrooms. They could not attend the same schools. They could not play in the same sports teams, and they could not sit near each other in movie theaters. They could not marry someone of a different race. It was white or colored. But Dorothy didn't think it was impossible. She was good at math, really good. She knew she was the right person for the job. She applied, and the laboratory offered her a position as a computer. At work, blacks and whites were kept apart. The white computers worked in one building, and Dorothy and the other black computers worked in a different building in their separate office. Even though they worked on the same kinds of assignments, the black computers and white computers used separate bathrooms and ate in separate lunchrooms. America won the war in 1945, but Dorothy stayed on the job. still trying to make airplanes faster and safer. By 1951, the Americans and the Russians were competing to see who could build the best planes. That meant more experiments and more members. Lots and lots of members. And more members meant the need for more computers. That's when Mary Jackson got a job as a computer at Langley. She worked in a group that tested model airplanes in wind tunnels. A wind tunnel was a machine like a huge metal box with a powerful fan attached. Mary put model airplanes in the wind tunnel and blasted them with air through the fan. This experiment helped the group improve their designs on the models before building full-size airplanes. Mary wanted to become an engineer, but officials said it was impossible. Most of the engineers at the laboratory were men, and to become an engineer, Mary needed to take high-level math classes, but she wasn't allowed to go inside the white school where the classes were taught. But Mary was good at math, really good, and she refused to give up. She got permission to enter the school building and take the math classes, and she earned good grades. Because she didn't give up, Mary Jackson became the first African-American female engineer at the laboratory. Katherine Johnson was good at math and always asked lots of questions. In 1953, she applied to the laboratory for a computer job and was placed on a team that tested actual planes while they were flying in the air. Their research was used to figure out ways to prevent future plane crashes. In one of the first projects, she learned how to analyze turbulence or dangerous gusts of air. No one knows how many lives her work may have helped save. Katherine wanted to help the group prepare the research reports, so she asked if she could go to meetings with other experts on her team. Because she was black, her boss told her it was impossible. And because she was a woman. Women aren't allowed to attend meetings, he said. But Katherine knew she was as good at math as anyone else, maybe even better. So she asked him again, and again, and again. She kept asking. Katherine asked her boss so many times that he finally invited her to the meetings. Katherine was good at math, really, really good. And because she fought to be treated the same as the men, she became the first woman in her group to sign her name to one of the group's reports. In the 1950s, the Langley Laboratory bought a machine computer that could do math faster than the human computers. At first, these machines made mistakes. Dorothy learned how to program the machines so that they got the right answers. She taught the women in her group how to program the computers too. In 1957, Russia launched a satellite known as Sputnik into orbit around the Earth. The United States started building satellites to explore space too. For years, the laboratory had used math to design airplanes. Now it would need math to create spaceships as well. The government decided to change the agency's name from the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, NACA, to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA. At that time, our president was President John F. Kennedy. And in 1961, President John F. Kennedy told Congress, "I believe this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth." A man on the moon? But the first step to getting a man on the moon was to send an astronaut around the Earth. NASA was going to need to hire more space experts and more people who were good at math, really good at math. The people at the laboratory had to work together from morning to night to figure out how to send astronaut John Glenn into space and bring him home to Earth safely. Katherine Johnson knew she could use math to help. "Tell me where you want the spaceship to land, and I'll tell you where to launch it," Katherine told her boss. Katherine helped calculate the trajectories or pathways that rockets travel through space. She had to plan Glenn's exact route from takeoff to Florida to splashdown in the Atlantic Ocean. There was no room for error. No one was better than Katherine at solving these tricky math problems. Days before his mission, John Glenn wanted Katherine to double-check the machine's computer trajectory calculations to make sure it had not made any mistakes. When Katherine said the numbers were correct, Glenn was ready to go. On February 20th, 1962, Glenn blasted off into space, circled the Earth, and then made his way home safely. Meanwhile, laws began to change so that black and white students could go to school together. Blacks fought for the right to sit beside whites on buses and to drink from the same water fountains. At the laboratory, black and white computers started working together in the same offices, eating at the same lunch tables, and using the same bathrooms. Black and white moviegoers could sit next to each other in the same theater. Across the country, people started to think about ways to bring equality to all Americans. Christine Darden was good at math, and she loved electronic computers. As you can imagine, she was really good. She started working at Langley in 1967. Christine wanted to become an engineer, and thanks to Dorothy, Mary, and Katherine, she knew it was possible. Eventually, she became an engineer for supersonic airplanes, planes flying faster than the speed of sound. But her first job was to help with NASA's mission to the moon. The people at the laboratory prepared for years to send astronauts to the moon, about 238,900 miles away from the Earth. Finally, on July 20th, 1969, the world watched as the three men arrived at the moon in their Apollo 11 spacecraft. "That's one small step for man, one giant step for mankind," said astronaut Neil Armstrong when he stepped into the dusty surface. But it was also a giant leap for Dorothy, Mary, Katherine, Christine, and all the other computers and engineers who had worked at the laboratory across the many years. The moon landing was a success from takeoff to splashdown. But there was no time to rest. Once NASA landed astronauts on the moon, the people at the laboratory began developing and dreaming of sending humans to other planets, such as Mars or Jupiter or Saturn. They started to imagine hyper-fast space planes that could travel around the Earth at 7 times the speed of sound. They began to dream of the possibilities. The next adventure wouldn't be easy and would require lots of tests and lots more members. But Dorothy, Mary, Katherine, and Christine knew one thing: with hard work, perseverance, and a love of math, anything, I mean anything, was possible and is possible. And then the book gives you a timeline, explaining the sequence, and gives you a more detailed look. And then at the very end, you get to meet the computers. You get to meet Dorothy Johnson Vaughn, Mary Winston Jackson, Catherine Coleman Gable Johnson, and Dr. Christine Mann Darden. And then you are left with a glossary and some notes. And again, this is Hidden Figures, the true story of the 4 black women in the space race, and then Hidden Figures, the Young Readers Edition. Both by Margot Lee Shetterly. And again, to these women, never give up. The sky is the limit. And when you look at this, she played Dorothy Vaughan. She played Christine Johnson, and she played, Katherine Johnson, and she played Mary Jackson. And again, thank you for your time, and I hope you come back to literarylymyway.com. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You already know the YouTube, and I've given you the website, the URL. Have a great day, and remember, never give up. The sky is the limit.